The 2025 NFL season is finally here. In today's video, we're going to do a deep breakdown of the NFL spreads market, which is their most liquid market out there, how sports books operate, when's the best time to bet, the difference between sharp books for the NFL and soft books. We're going to get into all of it. So, the first thing is understanding what a sharp book is and what a retail book or soft book is. Simply put, your retail books are the most commonly refer to sports books. They're FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, MGM, ESPN, Bet, you name it. There are dozens of them. And then there are their lesser known, what we call bookmakers or sharp books, which are Circa, Pinnacle, BookMaker. Those are what we call sharp books, and they set more accurate lines than the retail books. Now, the reason they set more accurate lines is they are willing to accept larger wagers from their customers. Now, someone like myself who has been profitable sports betting for years now, I'm almost cut off on every single retail book. The retail books, like I said, FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, MGM, they have me limited down to sometimes pennies on certain markets. Maybe once in a while, I'm able to get down $100 or $200. Meanwhile, the sharp books, instead of limiting their profitable bettors and their members, they actually use their bets as information to adjust their lines. So, for example, Circa might take $50,000 on an NFL spread close to game time. Meanwhile, FanDuel would only accept $100 from me. So, as a professional bettor, I will go to Circa and get $50,000 down on a line because FanDuel doesn't have, a high limit for me to bet into. That means that Circa is getting my information about my bet and they can move their line based on that information. So, what happens here is let's just say the market is currently sitting at Patriots plus 3 points. Now I go into Circa and I hammer them along with a bunch of other bettors at $50,000 limits at that plus three number. Circa will obviously recognize that a bunch of sharp customers they have us profiled as winners are all hitting that same number. So they bump Patriots from plus three down to plus two. Meanwhile, the rest of the market, all of the retail books that are not accepting large wagers, they're not getting this information from the sharp bettors because their limits are so low. So what we see on an odds screen is that Circa gets priced from plus three down to plus two. Meanwhile, the rest of the retail books are still sitting at that plus three number. That means we can go grab the plus three on FanDuel. And soon after that, FanDuel will likely move down to plus two because they understand that these books are much sharper and better at shaping lines. Now, the reason that beating the closing line or having a better price is so important is because, like I said, NFL is such a liquid market and the numbers shape up so well before the closing line or right before kickoff. So, right before kickoff, you have to understand that number is so efficient and so accurate because there are literally millions of dollars betting both sides of this line that the sports books, the sharp sports books, can use to get to the right price. There is a bunch of news that has been released. Obviously, throughout the week, news comes out and the books gather more information, which allows them to set better numbers. The weather is pretty much spot on. A couple of days out, they might be predicting a big windstorm and that wind might be completely died down by game time. That information is there. The market will come to a very efficient number, especially in the NFL, where the liquidity is unheard of compared to any other market. So the true way to make money betting the NFL in 2025 is by beating the closing line. If you do that, it's almost a guarantee that you'll be profitable long term if you continue to beat the closing line because unlike any other sport, the NFL is the most confident market to bet into. Now that we understand what a sharp book is versus a soft book, let's talk about the price discovery process for a sharp book. And we'll really dial in the NFL point spread market just because it's so liquid. So, this is a chart that's been shared around the sharp sports betting community for a long time. I'm not sure who actually created it. It was someone that probably made this and put it on Twitter, but it's been passed around for years now. If you know who made it, give them credit in the comments down below. I'll add their name to the video. But it's been shared multiple times because it's such a good demonstration on how these markets shape up and how this price discovery process actually works. So let's look at this. This graph is laid out Monday through Sunday. Typically, lines come out a week early for the following Sunday. So, sometimes Sunday night or Monday morning, you're getting lines for the following week. So what happens is a sharp book, we'll call it Circa, they'll open up at $2,000-$3,000 max bets. That means that, for their opening line, any customer can go in there and bet $2,000 or $3,000, but that is the absolute cap. The reason that this is so low is because it's early in the week. They don't have all the information yet. There might be questionable players. There might be doubtful players. The weather's not shaped up yet. There's a lot of question marks. So Circa recognizes that, hey, this line is probably not that accurate. Let's keep the limits low until we can get some more information and start shaping this line up. So what you see here is this gray line is showing you the betting limits. So throughout the week, the Circa will increase their betting limits. Now they typically open at a couple $1,000s, and by game time they're accepting 50 to I've seen $100,000 on some primetime games. They might even go up higher during the playoffs. But just to use this example, let's just say that they max out at $50,000 for NFL point spreads. So throughout the week, as they're gathering more information, that information from the sportsbook aspect is more bets coming in on the line. That is information for the sportsbook. Who's betting which side of the line here? We have, a dozen sharp bettors that we have profiled because they've been long-term winners with us are hitting one side of the line versus, maybe these losing bettors are hitting the other. So the more information they're getting from their customers, they're able to shape their lineup as well. With more information also comes in increased in limits. So you can see the green line for information and betting limits are pretty well correlated. The more information the book has, the larger limits they will take because they're more confident in their line. Now, what we see on the opposite side of this graph is the bet value. So as information and limits start increasing, the value starts going down because the numbers are starting to get shaped up to that very efficient number. So we have this kind of value zone where we have a decent amount of information. The limits are also getting pretty high, and we can still find some value. Now, I would argue that there is value to be found every single day in the NFL market. You can find value on opening numbers at those very low limits from the sharp books, but you're really opening yourself up to a lot of variance. If you're playing something a week out and you have, you think you have a 2% edge on that line at the moment, if news breaks against you, you might be holding on to a negative 10% EV bet. And if, the news breaks the right way, you might have a 10% plus EV bet. So yes, you can find value outside of this value zone early in the week. But what you're doing is you're giving up a lot of information for value. It's kind of a trade-off. You know that you might have some massive value here, but your information, you don't have much information at all. So it's a tough time to bet. It's a really volatile time to bet. But yes, you can lock in some serious value betting early in the week. And I think that's kind of why this value zone is kind of right down in the middle where, you're really starting to get the information and you still have a decent amount of value that can be grabbed. Now, I am a bettor that likes to bet very small edges at very high liquidity in the high liquidity markets with high limits. So I don't mind betting at the end of the scale, Saturday, Sunday morning, where the betting limits are way up and we know that this number is very accurate, but the value is almost down to nothing. But I will play a very small EV play, maybe a 0.5% EV play in a very high liquidity market because I can really trust that edge is confident and true. And I know the market isn't going to, tank one way or the other against me because the information's already all there. The limits are already up. Everyone that wanted to get their bets in already got them in. So for me, I do like playing at the end of the week where the liquidity is high, the information is there, but the value is low. That's just personal preference there. Obviously any time in the week is very good. I think you really, with the practice information coming out, that's where you get the most value, is when someone is reported to not show up to the practice because they were injured last week. And that's where you see lines move fast. And that's where you can lock in value before, the retail books move. So essentially this is how it works. The, sharp books gather information all week long. As they become more confident in their line, they increase their limits. When they're increasing their limits because they have more information, that means their prices are getting better. And that means the value is slowly going down. So that's just a really good example of how the price discovery process works. Like I said, the this price discovery process is shapes up so well for the NFL because the limits are so high. Compared to like WNBA, where the max bet might be only a couple $1,000s by game time, and they're only seeing hundreds of thousands of dollars bet into them instead of millions of dollars. We can trust NFL markets more than any other sport out there, and this graph is just a great example of it, and it's always a good piece to talk about. If you guys have any questions about this video, the price discovery process, or sharp books or soft books, leave that in the comments below. I recommend you guys checking out this next video, which is Sharp Money plus EV bots for beginners. I'm one of the owners of the Sharp Money Discord, and we have built bots that help you find positive EV plays. Basically, you can get value on the retail books while the sharp books are moving down, locking in profits. So I definitely recommend you watching this video if you're looking to make some money this year.